What's up? It is the Sports Live on a Friday. Going to be a big day, a long day, as we are now, Jack, 13 hours away from the Tennessee
Mhm.
Vols off in the Sweet 16. So that game technically today, but a long way away. Going to have a big time show setting up for more college basketball action all weekend long after staying up late last night watching some games go down to the wire in North Carolina, screwing me over on BetMGM. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the most likely Titans trade back scenarios in the 2024 NFL draft. And now we will have a chance to really open up on Nick Wright, who we started off the show yesterday with because our guy Noah dropped a pretty big super chat about something that Nick Wright said that I hadn't seen yet. But now we've had a chance to watch it. We'll play it later on in the show. And we'll talk about Nick Wright being wrong again. Shocker, shocker. And we'll play a game of what's the dumbest national media thing somebody has said about the Titans. So that's going to be fun. And it is a Friday, which means ain't that good news. It's also a good Friday. So happy Easter weekend as that approaches as well. So, Jack, welcome in. Let's have a good start to the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. In order to have a great start to the show today, let's get those like numbers up. As you guys are filing in here, let's make sure we throw a thumbs up button on Facebook and on YouTube. It helps us grow the show, gain new audience members, and in turn have better content and better chat material. You guys already crush it so much in the chat. Why not bring more people in? So go ahead and like the show if you haven't already. If you're watching on Facebook, let's do our homework early. Share the show to your Titans Facebook groups. I know all of you guys want to talk about trade back scenarios. We're going to get to some of that today, finally. But in order to get all the way there, let's go ahead and share the show to our Titans Facebook groups. Next, if you're watching on YouTube, tap that bell icon near the top of your screen and turn your notifications on so you get an update every time A to Z Sports goes live or post any Titans content to their YouTube channel. It's flowing constantly at this point in the offseason. So don't miss a thing. Tap that bell icon, turn your notifications on YouTube. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around to your Titans text groups. Text to any Titans fan that you know wants to kill an hour to their Friday work day today and hang out with us, talk a little sports. Or if they're getting ready for work, bring them in here. Let's help. Let's get ready with them. And Austin, with all that said, after everybody does their homework, it's
Yep.
time to get the show on the road.
Yeah, you got to do your homework. You gotta like the show. But let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry, the Tight Up Podcast, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state in Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. They are online at KrebsKubota.com. So happy Good Friday to everybody. I see somebody in the chat saying, hey, off work today, so you get a chance to watch live. And I see Brian as well saying comments are back. Brian messaged me, says, I don't know what happened, but I couldn't comment the last couple of days. But I'm glad Brian is somehow out of whatever Facebook jail that Facebook put him in. But Jack, we are here to discuss trade back options for the Tennessee Titans in this 2024 NFL draft. We're officially less than 1 month away from NFL draft weekend. We all know the Titans have the 7th overall pick. There's been so much conversation about what that pick is going to be. Offensive line, wide receiver. Is it Brock Bowers? Do you trade back? Who's the quarterback teams that are trying to jump up there to get a quarterback number 4 in this draft? And I think this draft is intriguing because of the superstar wide receivers at the top, and of course the quarterbacks and quarterback needy teams at the top. So I guess let's just go ahead and get to Buck Rising, because Buck went on Blaine and Mickey yesterday, and Blaine, I guess Mickey asked Buck on 104.5 The Zone, how are you feeling about the 7th overall pick? Just a flat out, like, how are you feeling right now? And yesterday was March 28th, but how was Buck Rising feeling about the 7th overall pick yesterday? And here's what that conversation went like.
You reserve all rights to change this over the next 3 weeks, but where are you right now on pick 7?
I'm pretty comfortably in the trade back situation with Minnesota and Vegas sniffing around quarterbacks. I think that it makes the most sense given the needs. I don't think that wide receiver is dire or as dire as it was. But if they have a prospect that they feel is absolutely worth taking at 7 and that they couldn't do better for the value on a trade back situation and adding multiple positions, then I'd understand it. But my gut feeling is you have multiple needs without a 3rd round draft pick. If you can pick up some extra draft capital there to be able to fill out that inside linebacker spot or that safety spot and still be able to get your tackle and wide receiver depth that you desperately need, this is a draft that's well equipped for them to be able to maneuver. So I'd probably try and angle back and pick up as many picks as humanly possible.
So that was Buck on Blaine and Mickey yesterday, and I see a couple people IR saying, like, Buck's opinion is credible. He is just media. And Jake saying, Buck's an idiot. Well, put an apostrophe after that K before the S. If you're going to call somebody an idiot, you got to at least be grammatically correct while calling somebody an idiot. Buck is not an idiot. Buck is media, but Buck also has a lot of conversations with people behind the scenes inside the Titans organization that work in the building and with other connections around the league. So I would say that idiot is decently connected across the NFL. But so he said, and again, Mickey just asked, where are you right now with a 7th overall pick? And Buck said, I'm pretty comfortably in the trade back department. Jack, how did you feel about hearing what Buck had to say about I'm comfortably sitting in the trade back spot?
Yeah, I don't blame him. The Titans do have multiple needs, right? Like he mentioned, wide receiver depth, some offensive line help. Obviously, those two things have been at the top of the Titans' priority list the entire offseason. And looking at the holes on the roster right now, you still probably need a pass rusher, an inside linebacker, a safety, although you can get a couple of those done probably with a veteran in this second, third wave of free agency. But, when you have a team with multiple holes like this, it does, I feel like a big portion of the fan base is always in the trade back camp. Like they were last year, they are again this year, especially when you factor in that the Titans don't have a 3rd round pick. So with just 2 picks in the first 3 rounds, the first 2 days, I should say, you kind of are putting yourself in a situation where you better get those 2 picks right. Now, if you're able to trade back and acquire more ammo, have more darts to throw at this draft board, then, hitting on some of these guys, obviously your chances go up. So I'll listen to the trade back stuff. Like I understand it. I totally get where you're coming from on that stuff. But if the right guy's at 7, I don't think you should risk it and trade back and, start banking on a hit in the 2nd round or at, the early teens, 13, 14, wherever, that partner is that you trade back with.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And you bring up the trade partner. So I saw Mike Herndon, also not an idiot, on Twitter yesterday saying the Titans, and going through a lot of different Titans trade back partners or likely partners. And Mike kind of put it like this. It's a longer tweet than what I've had the ability to put on a graphic, but I figured I would not assault your eyes with a bunch of text. But Mike said, looking at potential trade back partners in round 1, he listed the next 7 selections after the Titans. So picks 8 through 14. And I tried to do my best in concisely consolidate Mike's opinion about that team with a couple of words. He said Falcons, which would just be 1 spot. Unlikely, because you'd have to convince the Falcons that the player that they want is about to get picked up by somebody else trading with the Titans. The Bears is less likely as well because they only have 4 picks in this entire draft. The Jets could be a trade-up partner for either a pass catcher or an offensive lineman from 10 to 7. That would mean the 72nd pick could be coming to the Titans to fulfill that 3rd round slot. The Vikings, we've talked about a lot, Jack, of having those 2 first-round picks, trading with the Texans, I guess it was last week or maybe the week before, at 11 and 23 overall. That would be a desperation spot for the Vikings if they can't crack into the top 6. The Broncos, they would have to probably involve their next year first-round pick because they don't have a 2nd or a 3rd round pick this year. And then the Raiders and the Saints picking 44 and 45 in the 2nd round overall. And that would be something that would make a lot of sense for the Titans to go back to 13 or 14, grab another 2nd round pick at 13 or 14 in that round, and then go 13, 14 plus your 38th pick, and then the pick in the 2nd round from the Raiders or the Saints. And so what Herndon says to kind of wrap things up, he says, to me, that's the range I'd want to stay in if I were Carthon. Among this group, it feels to me like the Jets, Raiders, and Saints are the most logical fits because of the assets they have available to trade. However, the dream scenario is hoping the Vikings get shut out of the top 6 and hit the panic button right there. So, Jack, let's go ahead and dive into our question today to get the chat more involved because this is a big one here. So I just listed the 6 or 7 teams that Mike Herndon says it could be trade likely spots for the Titans. And the first question I want to ask you guys is, who is the most likely trade back partner for the Titans in the 1st round of the draft? Who is the most likely trade back partner for the Titans in the draft? Here again, those 7 teams, Falcons, Bears, Jets, Vikings, Broncos, Raiders, Saints. Who is the most likely of those for the Titans to trade back from 7 in the 1st round? But first, action happened last night on the hardwood in college basketball, and action will continue again tonight as the round of 16 continues. I, for one, Jack, improved from 191st to 144th in our bracket challenge brought to you by Princess Hot Chicken and the Tanger Outlets, but Buckeye Titan and Rand Carthon Spirit Animal remain at the top right there in our bracket challenge. And once again, Princess Hot Chicken's location at the Tanger Outlets in Nashville is a great spot for you to go check out and watch all the games this tournament long. Tanger Outlet Nashville, 70% off your favorite brands and over 100 of your favorite brands at their brand new shopping destination in Nashville, right off of Cane Ridge. And Princess Hot Chicken is right there in the middle of it all, giving you a great deal during the tournament this season. So go check that out. And the local winners of our bracket challenge will get gift cards to both the Tanger Outlets in Nashville and Princess Hot Chicken. So stay tuned for that because it looks like right now Buckeye Titan and Rand Carthon Spirit Animal, and they've got UConn as their winner. B. Garrison's in 3rd. He's got Creighton as his champion, and Creighton's on the court tonight against the Vols. So we'll check that out there. But, Jack, I will send you to the chat now. Well over 100 comments since I asked the question, and I'll let you go to it. Who is the most likely trade back partner for the Titans in the 1st round of the draft? While you go through the chat, I will keep that graphic up there to show what Mike Herndon said or his teams that he feels like are the best fits here.
Yeah, so first come, first serve system today. Orlando Jones starts us off on Facebook with the Vikings. Andre agrees. Jets from Hill, Vikings from Elo and Eric. Richie Guzman believes it's the Steelers who are not listed on this list. The Vikings, we've got Nick Ewing with the Raiders.
Hold on, let's pause the Steelers. Where are the Steelers?
To be honest, I don't know off the top of my head where they're picking in the 1st round.
Let's see. I do have our friends at Tankathon with open tab here. The Steelers are at 20th. And they've already got a lot of quarterbacks on their roster. So I don't necessarily think the Steelers are going to be somebody that gives up a lot of draft capital because they've got a cheap Russell Wilson and a cheap trade for Justin Fields. So, I don't know who the Steelers would be wanting to move up from 20 to 7. That's a big jump there, but continue going through the comments now.
Yeah, it'd probably have to be a receiver. And at 7, you're already dealing with the back end of the top flight of those guys. Guy Man and Billy believe it's the Vikings. Chef Rand thinks it's the Jets because they're desperate. And they are, because Aaron Rodgers isn't getting any younger. Raiders for major keys. Titans Kyle says Vikings. Jonathan says it's the Raiders. Eric agrees. Vikings from Elo. Saints from Derek. Saints from Jason. Bork says Vikings 1, Raiders 2. Jody Newell says it's the Raiders. But Ross and Jaron say it's the Vikings. We've got Raiders from Jon Snow. Broncos from Nathan. Vikings from Joey. So we're seeing a little bit of everything here, Austin. Vikings from Karen. Daniel believes it's the Broncos. Vikings from Lou Man and DeMario. Brian Badillo says it's Raiders. Dylan Cole's on the Broncos train. We've got a couple more Vikings from Greatness, Dion and Caleb, as well as Josh. Patrick says Bears or Raiders. Let's get a couple more in here before we get to my answer. Continuing to scroll here. Saints from Matthew, and we'll stop there.
All right.
Okay.
A lot of options here.
A lot of options, obviously. There's a handful of different teams that are willing to go up and get a quarterback, especially if the board falls right, where, a quarterback goes at 1, 2, and 3, and then you have that fourth quarterback. Most people believe it's probably J.J. McCarthy at this stage, where teams kind of want to jump in and get in there before the drop-off with Penix happens. So, sorry, that almost got crazy. But so you'd want to get in with McCarthy there if you don't have a high evaluation on, Michael Penix. And to me, the most likely trade back partner here is a team that's usually pretty trade happy around this time of the year. That's the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders currently have that 13th overall pick. They've got a second. They've got a third. And Austin, if there's a way where you can get all three of those picks for 7, and maybe you throw in a 5th, maybe you give them that 146 that you got from the Vikings, or maybe the price is lower. Maybe you hand over that 6th round pick at 182. If you can get a 1, 2, and 3 for a quarterback needy team that had to start Aiden O'Connell last year for a handful of games, then I think that's a home run situation. You can really start fixing a lot of your main problems on offense and have really, a complete offense with those 1, 2, and 3 picks. That solves a lot of issues immediately. And I think the Raiders are listening. They've already checked in. We've heard reports. They've already checked in with the Titans at 7.
Yep.
So for me, my ideal trade back partner would be the Las Vegas Raiders.
So the Raiders are at 13. I'll go through Mike Herndon's full text about what he said about the Raiders, because here is the graphic. Mike Herndon's tweet yesterday. He says, to me, that's the range I'd want to stay in if I were Carthon, between 8 and 14. Among that group, he said Jets, Raiders, and Saints are most logical. Here's what Mike said about the Raiders. They have top 100 picks at 44 and 77. We know they've already called up to gauge pricing moving up to 7, again, likely for a quarterback. With the 2 top 100 picks, can give the Titans some real ammo to fill needs. 7 for 13 and 44 is slightly in the Titans' favor on the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. But when a quarterback is the target, the price is usually a bit inflated. So getting 13, 44, and 77 wouldn't be completely out of question if Vegas is motivated. So, I mean, that would be an absolute haul. If the Titans could go back to 13, which is sliding back 6 spots, but you get another 2nd rounder and a 3rd rounder, 3 picks on day 2, plus going into what you have on day 3, man, that sounds really interesting. And I just don't know, if you're the Raiders, which quarterback are you trading up for?
Well, it'd be J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion.
Is J.J. McCarthy, is quarterback number 4, going to make it to the 7th pick?
I think that it's likely, unless, because I don't think the Giants are going to trade back. They need a receiver badly. I don't think the Chargers are going to trade back because they need a wide receiver.
The Cardinals and the Chargers will. I think that I said this yesterday, right? I think the Chargers are trading back because I think they want to trade back for somebody to come up and get, Marvin Harrison Jr. or the second, or like Malik Neighbors, and the Chargers want to go back and get Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State to be the right tackle. So
Yeah, but I mean, in this scenario, for me, the Chargers hold strong at 5, the Giants hold strong at 6, and there's no movement really in the top 3 unless the Patriots trade out to maybe the Vikings, and they still end up taking that third quarterback, whether it's Daniels or May. And then you have a Bowers or a receiver go to LA, or maybe it's a Joe Alt situation where he goes there. And then you have the Giants take a receiver. Well, the Titans at 7, if they've had a receiver and Joe Alt already get picked off the board, then maybe that's a situation where they say, hey, you know what? Like, I like Odunze, but maybe it's best if we trade back, get the next best offensive tackle, and then hammer out a wide receiver in the second round. I think that that's a realistic situation.
yeah, and Nick says, wrong comment. Where did Nick's comment go? Would the Chargers trade back with Vegas or Denver? Maybe. And I think that's where
both divisional rivals.
Yes, but I've also seen, and I think it was the Ringers' latest mock draft that I checked on this morning. They have the Vikings moving up to 3 with the Patriots. The Patriots going back to 11 to stick on. I think they went defense at 11. The Patriots, which would be weird, but the Vikings moved up to 3 to get Drake May, and then the Jets moved up to 5 to get Malik Neighbors after the Cardinals took Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, then Rome Odunze went 6 to the Giants. Joe Alt went 7 to the Titans. But in that situation, J.J. McCarthy's on the board. And the Vikings already moved up. So did the Jets from 10 to 5. And so now you're talking about the Raiders having a chance to jump up at 7 because J.J. McCarthy's there. So we did this yesterday. So let's ask the percentage question. What percentage chance do you think J.J. McCarthy is still on the board when the Titans are on the clock at 7? Because that is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Right?
No, 100% it is. Like you want McCarthy to be there when the Titans are on the clock at 7 because that drives up interest. There's a lot of teams in the middle of that first round that desperately need a quarterback. And if you don't get one of the top 3, then you're left with either Michael Penix or JJ McCarthy. And I don't know that a lot of people believe in Penix at the next level. I thought he was great in college. I think he can succeed in the NFL.
Can Michael Penix stay healthy?
The injury issues are a concern there, and that's why McCarthy's a little bit more valuable in teams' eyes. So I like that. I like that question, and I'll get to some of these chat answers here about the percentage that McCarthy is going to be on the board. Let's go ahead and get to it. We've got 50-50 from Michael Snyder. Brian Spivey's at 25%. Chef Rand's at 5%. Robbie Els is at 60%. Rashid and Billy are both at 80%. Stevie's there, right there with them. And we've got Fade at 10%. Bucks Burner, 62%. IR Hoshi's at 20%. Daniel's at 90%. Yuri's at 40%. DeMarco's at 100%. He believes it's a sure thing that McCarthy will be on the board by 7. Danny Whitson's at 65%. 65-70 from Jon Snow. 60% from John. Randy's at 5. Blake's at 10. Lucas Burke's at 69. I think it's a greater chance than 50. I think that it's around a 65% chance that we see J.J. McCarthy still on the board at 7. I think that these skill guys, when you're talking about Odunze Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., are too good to pass up in those 4, 5, and 6 spots. So I really do believe the run on wide receiver starts early. And for that reason, McCarthy's going to hang out on the board. But right after that second wide receiver gets taken, expect the phones to be buzzing. And that may be at 7 with the Titans.
I think J.J. McCarthy being available at 7 hinges on what the Patriots do at 3. If the Patriots take a quarterback at 3, I think McCarthy's gone by the time the Titans are on the board. No, I think McCarthy's still – if the Patriots take a quarterback at 3, McCarthy's gone before the Titans at 7 because the Vikings have to move up to 4 or 5 to get McCarthy. If the Vikings move up to 3 to get May and the Patriots don't take a quarterback, I think that's where J.J. McCarthy can kind of sit there, and that's where the Raiders come into play. So you said 65% chance. I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go 40% chance that J.J. McCarthy's still there at 7. I just think the Patriots would be so stupid to pass on a quarterback. it's like you have an opportunity to start fresh. And if you don't take a quarterback, you're just going to be spinning your wheels and trying to play with Jacoby Brissett with a first-year head coach and Gerard Mayo. Like, you got to do something to give an attempt to compete. And so I think I have a hard time believing the Pats pass on a QB there, which means the Vikings move up to probably 5 to get their quarterback in JJ McCarthy, if that's the case. So I still haven't even answered my most likely trade partner yet. Jack, you went with the Raiders. We're going through these likely trade partners or potential trade partners for the Titans to move back from the 7th overall pick. Shout out to Mike Herndon on Twitter for what he put out there yesterday with his potential options. I'll get to mine here in a second, but first, Krebs Kubota is where you should turn for all of your equipment needs. KrebsKubota.com. Check them out online whenever you need a piece of equipment to help you out for your residential or commercial property, whatever that project may be, big or small. Krebs Kubota can help you through every step of the process. They are an elite Kubota dealer with 3 locations, Murfreesboro, Columbia, and Franklin. Being an elite Kubota dealer means they have the best relationship with Kubota brand nationally for the best equipment and the best warranties. You can't get that anywhere else with Krebs Kubota in Middle Tennessee. So go check them out. The weather is going to be gorgeous. We're like 80-something degrees maybe tomorrow on Jack. So make sure you get your sunscreen out there if you're going on a little Easter egg hunt. But Krebs Kubota takes care of your inside, your outside at your home or your company online, KrebsKubota.com.
BetMGM.com. It's the king of sportsbooks, people, and it's the king for a reason. It's an easy app to navigate for new users. Speaking of new users, if you're looking to switch sportsbooks or get in the game during March, BetMGM is the place to do it. Download BetMGM and use our bonus code A to Z Sports when you sign up, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Start off in the green. Don't worry about digging yourself out of a hole. Take advantage of this great promotion going on right now at BetMGM. Use our bonus code A to Z Sports for up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, so going through the most likely trade partner for the Titans at 7. And I look, the best case scenario is that the Vikings are super desperate. They don't get it. They don't have the ability to get up to 3, 4, 5. And the Giants take Malik Neighbors at 6 or Roma Dunze, and the Titans are right there, and they can get a haul, 11 and 23 overall with that Vikings trade. But Jack, I really agree with you. I think the Raiders is the best spot. It's not going to be the Broncos because the Broncos don't have draft capital to spend. And so if you're the Tennessee Titans, I don't think you want to wait for a 2025 draft pick for like your haul here. And there was a couple comments that I starred during the initial reaction from the chat on this. And, Bork said the Titans still need starter talent at linebacker, defensive tackle, safety, left tackle, and right tackle. And that's a lot of holes to fill.
And you're not going to start 5 rookies at these positions.
Yeah, but like as you're trying to build this thing, I think you need more opportunities to fill those positions with 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks. Because we all know the priority for the Titans is offensive line and wide receiver and corner, clearly, are where they're going to spend the most free agent dollars or draft capital, we believe. But you've got to be able to fill in good talent at right tackle, safety, D tackle, and linebacker. And you find those guys at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, 5th round in the past. And so I think that's where you don't necessarily want to wait to go fill those needs because the linebacker free agent pool is thin. So I think the Raiders is the right fit. It's not going to be the Broncos. It's not going to be a team that doesn't have a lot. Like the Saints also don't have a 3rd round pick. So you'd get 45 overall if you're the Saints and maybe a 4th round pick too. But I think if I were going to rank the most likely trade partners, it's the Raiders 1, Vikings 2, and Saints 3. I don't think the Broncos are going to do it. I think the Jets are going to trade up for a player that you would probably want to take. And so I don't think the Jets are going to, you'd want to do that. The Jets might trade ahead of you. But that's kind of how I take it there, Jack.
Yeah, I do think the Raiders probably are the most likely in this situation. The Vikings have the most ammo, but their ammo is so extreme to where they're going to have to use it to get up into that top 3. And that's their plan. They're trying to get that New England pick at number 3. And I think there's a good chance the Patriots do it. Look, you talk about the Titans being multiple pieces away. I mean, the Patriots are at least 10 pieces away. Like they need to build throughout this draft with Gerard Mayo taking over in his first season as the Patriots head coach. And they're going to have a patient approach because Mayo's in his first year and because they don't have a quarterback. They're going to probably be starting a rookie quarterback this season. Jacoby Brissett's the only quarterback on their roster, Austin, and I believe it's a 1-year, $8 million for him. So they're absolutely looking for a guy. Now, if they can find a guy later in the first round while also adding more picks, I think they do that. So I do think Minnesota's off the board for that reason. And that leaves me with just the Raiders. I don't think the Saints are going to trade up. They got Derek Carr, and I know he's not going to perform well, and he's on a bad contract that's already evident through one season in New Orleans. But I just think the Raiders have the most to gain by trading up. So because of that reason, I think they're a little bit more desperate because you get a right quarterback over there, you maybe make a move for Ayuk, and then you're talking about one of the best offenses in the West, which you have to have in order to keep up with the Chiefs. You got to be able to score points in that division. The Raiders know that. They need a quarterback that can do that. And if they believe that J.J. McCarthy's their guy, that's perfect. I don't necessarily believe that, but if they think that, that's all that matters in this situation.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I saw a comment that I wanted to get to, and I can't find it right now to see if it was in a Facebook thread or not. But it was about do the Titans need a player or do they need picks? And I think that's the tough thing because I really think I'm going to like who the Titans can draft at 7 a lot. I'm going to like Joe Alt. I'm going to like Rome Odunze. I'm going to like Brock Bowers. I'm going to love Malik Neighbors. I think I'm cool. If they draft Dallas Turner, edge rusher out of Alabama at 7, I think they probably could have traded back and gotten some more picks and gotten Dallas Turner. But I still think the Dallas Turner is going to be a really good player. And Sean Gill said that was his comment that he said. So I'm going to like a lot of options at 7th overall. So how desperate are you for another 3rd round pick to pass up on a 7th overall pick that might be a stud for you over his rookie contract for 4 to 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm struggling with, because are the Titans competing for a playoff spot this year? No.
Well,
you're trying to
a playoff spot, a wild card spot. I think that's totally in the realm of possibility. I think that should be the goal. You can compete for a wild card spot. The South title may be a bit of a reach, but a wild card spot, I believe, is absolutely on the table when you look at some of the teams that got in last year.
It's fair. I think that's a bonus if that happens. I think the goal, if I'm the Titans, I'm building towards competing for the division in 2025. And I think a 7th overall pick that I just named of one of these 4 guys, maybe it's 5, of Alt, Neighbors, Odunze, Brock Bowers, Dallas Turner. Those 5 guys, one of those 5 at 7 is going to help me compete to win the division in 2025. So if you trade back, I just named 5, right? If you trade back with the Raiders, you're going back 6 spots. Some of those 5 are not going to be available at 7. So you're going to drop out of maybe getting all of those 5. I doubt Dallas Turner is going to be there at 13. Brock Bowers might be there at 13. And then you're going to have to go down a tier to Fashanu, the right tackle from Penn State, or one of the right tackles. Washington has a right tackle, or the Oregon State right tackle. I just think that dropping back to 13, you're going to lose out on one of those guys that can be a key pillar for you to go for it in 2025.
Well, I think we should ask that question then. If you do trade back, who's your mid-first round prospect to target? So I'm going to ask this question in the chat. I want to see some answers. Let's blow this thing up, chat. By the way, like the show. We're only at 56 right now. 388 people are in here. Like the show. I'll ask the question one more time. If the Titans trade back, who's your mid-first round prospect to target? If the Titans trade back, who's your mid-first round prospect to target? We'll get to some of you guys' answers in a second, but Austin, I'll hand it to you.
Yes, I'll take it from here. Farm Bureau health plans. You don't have to trade up, trade back, or do anything. You can save money by switching your health coverage to Farm Bureau health plans. That's what happened with Zach several years ago. He switched over to Farm Bureau health plans and saved 20% each month and actually got better coverage for it. Don't pay out of pocket for your vision or your dental coverage. Make sure you got that worked into the plan. And Farm Bureau health plans will customize any plan to fit whatever your specific needs are, whether you're young and you're coming off your parents' coverage and you're trying to maneuver and navigate through that area of adulthood. Farm Bureau Health Plans is putting more resources into helping people like you take that next step. Or maybe you've got a growing family. You're trying to figure out how you guys can set things up for the best for your family for the long haul in the now and in the future. Farm Bureau Health Plans gets you in, takes care of you, and to set that plan alongside what you want to do. And they've been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. A ton has changed across the state, but Farm Bureau Health Plan's commitment to Tennesseans across the state has just gotten stronger. They invest in their communities. They invest in sports, the Titans, the Vols, other colleges, youth baseball fields around the state as well this spring. You'll see that logo. So check them out online to get a quote, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
While we're talking draft, it's important to bring up BetMGM because they've got everything. If you want to get in on some draft props, you want to put some money on it, on which position the Titans may target, or maybe it's another team or even a player where you believe might go to a certain slot, do it on BetMGM. Make some money that way. Download BetMGM and new users sign up with our bonus code A to Z Sports and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. One more time. New users, sign up with our bonus code, ATOZ Sports. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only new customer offer. All promotions, subject to qualification, and eligible requirements. First online money wager only. Rewards issued non-eligible bonus bets. Bonus bets expire in 7 days. And for public game of sport, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Jack, over to you to the chat. Who is your favorite trade back prospect in the middle of the first round if the Titans do in fact move back in the draft?
Hill starts us off on YouTube with Brock Bowers. Major Key says it's Brian Thomas. Stevie agrees with him. Bucks Burner says J.C. Latham is his target if you trade back. We've got Fuaga or Mims here from Daniel. Dallas Turner at 7th or 11th. If we go further back than that, he's not. Okay, that's a different comment. We're going to go to Dallas Turner from Orlando. Brian Thomas or Fuaga, the tackle from Oregon State. Bowers, 3 in a row for Bowers. Dallas Turner from Chino. Let's see, Olu. We got Brian Thomas, Olu, Brian Thomas, Brock Bowers, or Fashanu. I've got to get used to saying that right. Fashanu.
Maybe. If he gets drafted to Nashville, then we have to work on that. If he doesn't, then we can forget about it.
That's true. Anyone not named J.C. Latham? Eric Castillo's worried that he's Chance Warmack 2.0. Olu or Latham? Cooper DeJean if you need a cornerback from Doug. Although I do think the Titans shored up that position through free agency.
Cooper could be a safety.
Mm-hmm.
So you could take Iowa DB to match up with another Iowa DB and Amani Hooker.
Because you couldn't match up the two Hawkeyes, Geno Stone and Amani Hooker.
Geno Stone.
I know you're still upset about.
I am. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, Darius on YouTube says it's Olu or Thomas.
And it's DeJean, by the way. DeJean. So Fashanu and DeJean.
Okay, Fashanu, DeJean. We're gonna all get that right. Fashanu here. Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. Fuaga or Fautanu. Okay, Fautanu's now in the mix. Brian Thomas,
Washington. Yeah.
Fashanu. Overall, we got Fuaga. Fashanu, Bowers, or Fuaga. Austin, it's an interesting spot the Titans can find themselves in if they trade back to that 13 spot. But if they do, I'm targeting Fashanu. I want that big 6'6", 315-pound tackle on my team. Okay? Because if you do that with the Raiders and you get the mid-first round pick, and then you come back after 38 where you can get Chop Robinson or the other Robinson from Missouri that's kind of a Danico Autry replacement. You can get one of those guys and then add a receiver like Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, Xavier Legette, maybe Ladd McConkey if that's your cup of tea. And then, Austin, if you can get up into the third round, you bring in Patrick Paul. Boom. You've got Fashanu,
Patrick Paul's making it a third round?
Maybe an early day 3 guy. If he slips
well,
that far.
Hey, in this situation, Jack, the Titans have with the Raiders. With the Raiders, the Titans have the 13th pick where you're going with Olu Fashanu. Then they have the 38th pick, the 44th pick, and 77, if I'm correct. That's a lot of ammo right there.
You're correct. And that's only if but even if they don't, you still got enough ammo in the back end of this draft to hop back in that third round if that's what you want to do. And look, if you can land Fashanu and Paul in any situation in this draft, that's a home run draft already right there. Sure, you can add a receiver, with that other second round pick, or you can go Danico Autry replacement or inside linebacker with maybe an Edgerrin Cooper from A&M. But I believe if you make this trade, you get Fashanu in the middle of the first round, and then you circle back and find your right tackle in that second round with that extra pick. And then you can decide, you can pick your poison, whether you want to add a pass rusher or a pass catcher. Either one of those checks a big box for the Titans and helps them move forward and get closer to competing for a wild card spot, in the fall.
Yeah, I think Patrick Paul's probably a high second round pick. So if you're the Titans in this situation, I think the Titans would have to go Patrick Paul at 38 or 44.
Okay, well, you can make that happen.
You can still use the other for a receiver. So you're saying in this situation, the Titans would have 3 picks in the top 44. You would get 2 tackles and a wideout.
Mm-hmm. And Paul at 38 could work. And then Troy Franklin still be on the board at 44. And then you're really cooking with some oil.
Cooking with oil, you're cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas, cooking with oil, cooking with gas and oil. You're cooking with whatever you need because Chef Rand's going to be in the kitchen if he lands 2 tackles and a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds of this draft.
And the first 44 picks.
That's right.
Man, I mean, that would be Cullen says Patrick Paul isn't that good though. Well, I mean, I think he's got traits, right? So what you're saying with the 2 tackles that you've brought up here is Olu Fashanu and Patrick Paul, big body traits guys who are not technically sound yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's
both 315 pounds, Fashanu 6'6", Paul 6'7". I know Bill Callahan can make magic with that.
Yes. Bill Callahan can't teach 6'7", 330 pounds. No. He can teach hand placement. You know what he can't teach though? This is why 1 tackle for me is not an option. It's Fashanu. He's got tiny hands. He's got these tiny hands.
Throwing the football.
Yeah, but he's having to put those paws up on some big guys across from him. How do you think that works?
If you have, give me long arms over large hands for an offensive lineman.
I think you gotta have both, and usually long arms come with bigger hands, but not with Olu Fashanu. He's got decent enough arm length, but he's got tiny hands. You got to be able to have strength from your hands to be able to stonewall people when they're coming. If you got tiny hands, you don't have the surface area. They're really small hands. It's like the smallest hands of any first round. I'm trying to remember the first round. Give me a second. Georgia guard drafted by the Patriots like 6 years ago. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I believe he caught a punt in training camp to end a practice one day. I'm forgetting his name though.
That's the small. It's Olu Fashanu and him. This name's gonna make me angry when somebody in the chat gets it. Isaiah Wynn. Thank you, John.
That's right.
Isaiah Wynn. And Chef Rand got it. Boss Man Jim got it. But I saw John's first one. Isaiah Wynn and Olu Fashanu had the 2 smallest hands of first round offensive line prospects in like 25 years. So I think if I'm the Titans and I move back to 13 in this spot, I'm going to go Fatanu from Washington or Fuaga from Oregon State, preferably Fuaga from Oregon State before I go with Olu Fashanu there on the offensive line.
So the hand size is enough of a red flag to steer you completely in the opposite direction of Fashanu. Despite his measurables, despite his 34-inch arms, despite his 6'6", 315-pound frame, it's the hand size that makes you say
I think what I also feel about Fashanu, and I've heard this, I believe it was Field Yates who said it. Maybe it was Kyle Krabs. I can't remember which draft guy said it, but that you wanted to see Fashanu go back to school and become
grow his hands?
No, and become the top 10 prospect that everybody can't miss. And he went back to school and nothing improved. He kind of stayed the same guy. He didn't take that next step. So is he closer to his ceiling than other options? That's where I believe Fashanu is closer to a finished product. And I would rather take Fuaga to be your right tackle in that area.
I hear you. I just don't know if that makes me believe he's more of a finished project or a finished product. I should say.
Not because of his hands. His hands
no,
don't make
but
him
because he didn't make that leap when he came back, right? Like I think he may have just plateaued under the coaching staff that he had to work with.
Maybe
but when
that would be a great rebuttal if you were in Fashanu's camp. Yes,
exactly. Maybe he should hire me. And then you've got Bill Callahan to really pull everything you can out of that dude and make sure his technique's sound. To match it up with his impressive frame, you get a guy who has got good technique, who doesn't get bull rushed, who nobody beats around the edge. And that's a guy I want blocking for Will Levis for the next decade. So, I think if you do trade back and you're in that middle of the first round, you've got to go offensive tackle. Whether Fashanu is your preference or not, it's got to be a tackle right there.
I think there's a ton of tackles. Let me see. I do still have it. Here's the graph of notable offensive linemen from the combine that are all getting first round buzz. Talisi Fuaga, Troy Fatanu, those guys are tackles. Obviously, Fashanu is a tackle. Joe Alt. There's a lot of interior guys. Tyler Guyton, I think, is more of a late 20s pick. Amarius Mims from Georgia, also more of a late 20s pick. J.C. Latham is somebody that people are really mixed on because he's such a good run blocker as a right tackle, depending on the offense. And we don't think the Titans are going that direction. But I think if the Titans do not get Joe Alt, the next two offensive linemen that I'm going to go with are Talisi Fuaga and Troy Fatanu, right there out of the Pac-12. So I would go either of those guys in this trade back scenario rather than Olu Fashanu from Penn State. So that's not my guy, though. That's not my favorite mid first round prospect. I've got two. Everybody here knows that I like Brock Bowers, and I think Brock Bowers would be a really good fit for Will Levis, especially with D-Hop and Calvin Ridley working the outside, having Brock Bowers over the middle. I know that's a lot of draft capital 3 years in a row at the tight end position, and especially doing it in the first round. Roz just says he's too small. I don't care. Brock Bowers scores touchdowns and blocks people. That's what he's been doing. Bowers would not be a terrible pick. He would be a good football player for this franchise for a while. I think 13 is a great spot to get Brock Bowers, but the guy that I really like is somebody the Titans don't have a need for anymore. It'd be Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. The guy's a freak.
Great Senior Bowl, too.
Great Senior Bowl, killer combine. He's an absolute stud. He locked down everybody the last couple of years. Good competition and, MAC competition. But Quinyon Mitchell's a freak, man. And the Titans just don't have a need for him because they got Cheeto and they got L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they took a cornerback in general in this draft. I feel pretty good about the top four. Pre-Sneed trade, the Titans trading back to 13 or back to wherever and finding Quinyon Mitchell right there would have been, great. Love it. Yeah.
But now
it would have been a lot cheaper. And then you could have gone out and somebody next year.
So many comments. Boss man, still need a corner though. Behind the starting three, there's nothing. Let's see. Nick, you never have too many corners
at this stage.
And then Steven, you can't have too many corners. Oh, I agree. but you can't have too many highly paid corners, especially when you're giving Cheeto and Snead are both within the top 15 highly paid corners, and you're doing it again in the first round, and you've got Roger McCreary, who's his 35th overall pick.
That's you're going to like to pay eventually.
That's 4 cornerbacks that are getting paid a bunch of money and that you spent high second round and mid first round capital on. I don't think you can do that all at the same time.
Yeah, it's nice to be extremely solid and extremely deep at cornerback, but when you're really shallow at other positions of need, like, maybe tackle with a rookie quarterback, then I think that's kind of, ignoring the blueprint and delaying the inevitable, which is, eventually patching up that offensive line. Like, you can't let Will Levis sit back there in year 2, but year 1 as a full-time starter and just get pummeled like he did last year. Then you've lost him. Then you've lost his confidence. Then there's no timing. You're not making the most out of Calvin Ridley, who you've brought in because Levis doesn't have the time to get the ball there. Get you a couple tackles in this draft. Worry about cornerback in the 7th round.
Yeah, and Jason says, Austin just pointed out the Titans don't have a need at cornerback because of free agent pickups. Why does your position the same? I understand the future argument, but there's no need on this team. We're going to OT. Stop. Well, there's a difference here because I said wide receiver for future because you've got Diop for 1 year and Calvin Ridley for 2, maybe 3, as he's aging into his 30s. At cornerback, you got Cheeto for 3 and Snead for 4. Mm-hmm. It's a lot longer than 1 and 2. And really the DeAndre Hopkins contract is the main reason why I think wide receiver in the first round is still an option. But that's a good comment for another day. All right, we got to get to some super chats. We'll also get to Nick Wright. We want you guys to be thinking of something, and that is, what is the worst, dumbest national media take in Titans history? Because we'll play the Nick Wright video coming up here in a second. But the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs. Whenever that happens in life, it always catches you off guard. You're never planning to get injured, but when it does, you have to know where you can go and who you can trust to get you back on that road to recovery. And that is the Bone and Joint Institute, with over a dozen experts in their Franklin facility right off of I-65 and Highway 96. The Bone and Joint Institute has all the resources with them and the technology and the rehab facility right there to help you do it and get back to it the right way. So if it's life injury, somebody your son or daughter getting hurt playing youth sports, they've got everything right there under one roof. So accessible and easy to get to with the interstate and Highway 96 right there on the corner of it in Franklin, online, boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com. It's the king of sportsbooks. March is a great time to get some skin in the game. So if you don't have a sportsbook, or you don't like the one you're on, or maybe you've got a bad luck streak going, switch it up. Download BetMGM and use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. There's so many sports going on right now. I'm so sad, Austin, because the Preds 18-game point streak got snapped last night. Of course, I had the Preds money line, so maybe it's my fault. But BetMGM.com, that's a situation where if you lost that first bet, you come in with bonus bets, get up to $1,500 back if you use our bonus code A to Z Sports. So go take advantage of this great offer on BetMGM.com.
All right. So the question is, what's the dumbest national media take about the Titans that you can remember? So do you want to go ahead and get to some of those comments there, Jack? Well, while we let more of them come in, I'll go ahead and play what Nick Wright did this week on Fox's, was it First Things First is what it's called. Here is what happened this week.
The division's
8
going to be
and 9
better.
instead of 9 and 8
this year, don't you think?
So, well,
Houston's going to be good. Jacksonville is what
I
it
think
is.
Houston and Jacksonville are
Titans should
fine.
be better.
Titans are
I think they'll
somehow
be better.
going for
Oh,
it.
they are going for it.
Oh, I
They're
think the
going for it.
Titans might end up with
You
the
don't
number
think
one
they?
pick.
Why
are they signing everybody? Yeah, because I think they're poorly run.
Wow.
Maybe. You think the Titans are going to be good?
I think they're going to be competitive.
They're trying
to be competitive.
Okay.
But
I'm just saying, the other teams are not trying.
I wish they had kept Vrabel and signed all these guys, to be honest. But
Purdy. Yeah, but you know why they didn't keep Vrabel? Because they're poorly run.
So they're poorly run. They didn't keep Vrabel because they're poorly run. They're going to have the first overall pick because they're poorly run. But again, he has no idea what he's talking about. Neither does Chris Broussard, because he thinks they should have kept Mike Vrabel. I guarantee you Chris Broussard has done zero reading about why the Titans fired Mike Vrabel after they fired Mike Vrabel. That is just a thing I'm fairly confident in from Chris Broussard. But so what's the dumbest national media take that you've heard or can remember? Jack, I'll let you go ahead and fly through these comments.
Yeah, they're kind of spaced out, so forgive me if I kind of buy time in between. But Devin Mills starts us off on Facebook with the other dumb take was Deion not even knowing our players' names. People seem to forget that one. And I think he's referring to Kevin Byard in that situation where Deion Sanders called him a fan. Mike Tannenbaum mocking J.C. Latham at 7 to the Titans. I think that is a reach. I agree with Jared Gibson.
Yeah, but that's not that
doesn't hold water for some of these guys.
Of some of these other ridiculous things.
Speaking of ridiculous, Adam ranks Titans record predictions a few seasons ago. He had us winning 4 games, maybe. Austin,
3-13.
What was that?
What?
3-13?
Yeah.
3-13, and they ended up winning the AFC in the regular season. National media.
I think that was the 9-7 team that went to the AFC Championship game.
Okay. Well, there you go, Adam Rank. National media, the day Vrabel got fired. Oh, he will be the first coach signed. What were the Titans thinking? I think that, we kind of thought that he'd go off the board pretty quickly too, but yeah, that ended up freezing cold. So Danny Whitson,
I felt very calmly that I was sitting here going like, why would anybody hire Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel in the NFL? Why?
Yeah. Pistol Ramsey says the dumbest take was when Nick Wright said that Rashee Rice and Hollywood, that duo is better than Ridley and Hopkins, which is a bit ridiculous if you ask me. I think Ridley and Hopkins far more established than those.
Yeah, I would like to ask Nick Wright who he would rather have Patrick Mahomes throwing to if money wasn't an option. And Nick Wright is a super biased Chiefs fan. But yeah.
Let's see. I don't know that there's too many more because there are kind of the same ones being repeated. Let's see if I don't know. We'll just end it with JR says that Vrabel is a consultant now. Let that sink in. Kind of back to that Mike Vrabel thing. Okay. My answer for this is what Devin Mills said about Deion Sanders referring to Kevin Byard as a fan. And not only did he refer to him as a fan, but the timing in which he did so was so out of pocket that Deion Sanders should have felt embarrassed. And look, his run as an NFL analyst did not last long, and that's probably a good thing. Because when he called Kevin Byard a fan, Austin, it was in March of 2018. You know what Byard did in 2017? First team All-Pro, led the NFL with 8 interceptions. And you can't even remember this guy's name? I mean, that just shows how much homework Deion Sanders was doing as an analyst in the, with, I forget whether it was ESPN or NFL Network. But Deion Sanders calling Kevin Byard a fan absolutely sticks out to me after an all-pro season where he led the NFL with 8 picks. So Deion Sanders, that was the dumbest national media take that I can remember.
Yeah, that's a great one. And also a lot of people bring it up. Chris Broussard during the Tuesday COVID game between the Titans and the Bills when Deion Dawkins got blown up or slipped. Jeffrey Simmons blew up Josh Allen on that play right there on the goal line. And Chris Broussard was like, that's because Taylor Lewin is out of the game. Deion Dawkins is a backup. Not only is Deion Dawkins like a 3-time Pro Bowl left tackle for the Buffalo Bills, but Taylor Lewan is obviously a Titans player at that point.
Yeah,
that was
Chris Broussard's multiple sources let him down on that one.
Yeah, and Brandon brought up a really good one too. Keyshawn Johnson saying the Titans hired Brian Callahan over Eric Bieniemy and Aaron Glenn because he's white. I thought that was a great one too. Because Keyshawn Johnson just failed to even recognize that the Titans have a black general manager who went out there and interviewed a bunch of different candidates and hired Brian Callahan. And Aaron Glenn did not get a head coaching job. He's a defensive coordinator for the Lions going back there, which I think he's a really good coach, just not what the Titans needed. And Eric Bieniemy is the biggest conundrum on how that guy can't get a head coaching job in the NFL. So much so that he's back at UCLA as like an offensive coordinator. After
I forget the number.
Chip Kelly left to go to Ohio State in a random weird domino path that makes no sense to anybody. Like the Keyshawn thing was so stupid and so uninformed that it made my brain hurt. And I had to act like it wasn't real to not continue to make me mad. Like, it was something that was like, why are people going so bad and so uninformed about things? Also, like, there's another one too that's recent. The people hating on the Titans for paying Calvin Ridley $23 million a year because the other guys who got fired didn't pay AJ Brown. Like, they're not the same people. Like, oh man.
I know. And then you see like Gabe Davis's contract. And I forgot who got signed, which receiver got signed right after Ridley, but that deal was similar. And now it's like it's already starting to look like, hey, Ridley, it's probably a pretty fair deal. But back to Eric Bieniemy, I remember we were talking about this on the Tighten Up podcast during coaching search season because Austin Huff was a big Eric Bieniemy guy. And I was like, Austin, this dude's interviewed, I believe the number was 16. He's interviewed as a head coach for 16 different teams in this league, and they've all said no. Why should the Titans be the one that says yes?
Well, and the other thing of the Keyshawn stuff is, if you remember, the Titans requested to interview him for their offensive coordinator job a couple of years ago, and Bieniemy said no.
Mm-hmm.
So why would the Titans want to interview that guy for the head coaching job if he didn't even want to talk to him? But not even take the job as the OC. He didn't even want to talk to him as an offensive coordinator option.
Yeah, the Bieniemy love is a bit crazy to me, but he's on
the Keyshawn thing was so dumb because at the time that Keyshawn did that, I think Callahan was like the third or fourth coach hired in the cycle, and the first like 2 or 3 hires that were made were Antonio Pierce and Gerard Mayo, and it's like, well, obviously they're former players and they're black head coaches getting opportunities for the first time. Like, there was no basis to stand on with any of that. It was just so wildly uninformed. And I don't know I'll stop talking about Keyshawn Johnson because it was so dumb on like 8 different levels of what Keyshawn said.
Yeah, he irks me. He's slowly becoming my least favorite national media member.
Now, all right. So Elo says Keyshawn was not the worst than you saying Derrick Henry will be a bust. Y'all in the same boat. No, come on. That's so stupid, Elo. Yes, did I think when Derrick Henry was drafted, I didn't think he'd be a successful running back in the NFL. I've talked about this so many times. I am flat out wrong, right? I was wrong about Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry also admitted that he was running soft and had to change, and it took him 2.5 years to do it. And then he became one of the best to ever do it. So credit to Derrick Henry for working his ass off, investing in himself, and becoming a Hall of Famer. And yeah, I told Derrick Henry to my face, I didn't think you'd be a Pro Bowl running back. Haha, you made a Pro Bowl. He didn't think it was that funny at the time. But
it was a slow burn, though, to start his career.
No,
right?
It was.
But what a hell of a high it was when he got there.
I mean, come on. Like, and my reasoning for Derrick Henry not being a productive NFL running back or a Pro Bowl level running back was because he had so many tackles for losses in college. Like, it was either he ran for 15 yards or more for a touchdown, or he got tackled for a -1 gain. And early in his career, go back and watch it, he was getting tackled for loss a lot, or he would have really strong runs. It was no in between. He got better and he became a Hall of Fame running back. He gets all the credit for that. And yeah, I was wrong. And so I've said that. I've been talking about this since Derrick Henry made his first Pro Bowl, maybe in like 2019, or his first 1,000-yard season was 2018, which was his 3rd year in the league. Like, so it took him some time.
Yeah, but he got there.
Yeah. They almost traded him halfway through his 3rd year.
I mean, we were the Titans fans everywhere. We're like, I mean, I don't know if the chat is willing to admit this or not, but like, I was frustrated with Derrick Henry's level of production those first couple of years. Like I was worried that he wasn't going to work out, but I'm glad that he turned the corner. I'm glad that he had that dinner with Eddie George, and I'm grateful for the years we got to spend with him.
Dion says, you think Derrick Henry's a Hall of Fame running back? Yes.
I agree. He has to be. I mean, he was the best player at his position for 5 years, and who knows what he does in Baltimore? Like if he puts up a couple of 1,000-yard seasons in Baltimore, I think you then start talking first ballot.
I mean, I don't know if he's got 2 more 1,000-yard seasons in him, but he's a Hall of Famer.
I'm not going to put anything past that man.
Look, for sure. I think I said this back in the season. I think Derrick Henry is the last 10,000-yard rusher in the NFL.
They're not durable. They don't hang
There's
around
numbers
any longer.
behind that. Sam wrote about it. You want to Google Derrick Henry last 10,000-yard rusher, do it, because I think that's going to happen. I don't think there's another 10,000-yard rusher in the NFL after Derrick Henry. It's just not how the league's working right now.
Mm-hmm. Seasons get longer though. They keep adding games, and it's going to happen. Maybe in 2
but
seasons.
running backs are getting their careers are shorter.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're throwing the ball more.
I'll tell you what though, this free agent class of running backs is going to be very pivotal for your proclamation here, because if Austin Eckler can find it, if Saquon Barkley can find it, and you've got running backs performing on second contracts again, then that would encourage teams to start paying running backs and keeping them around for a little bit longer than they have been in the past few years.
Yep, for sure. Hey, Elo says, I agree with you 100%. Also, love for being a good sport with the comments. Hey, always a good sport with the comments, even if Lou Man creeps me out in the mornings before the show starts. All right, super chats before we get out of here. Andre says, I'm not passing on a stud at wide receiver left tackle to trade back, only if Neighbors, Alt, and Adunze are all gone, and that's not likely. It's almost for sure a home run at 7. I sign, seal, deliver. I think it's really hard to pass up on one of those 3 guys at 7. Andre also says Daniels and Penix fit the Vikings system. If Daniels is at 3, they try to trade with the Pats. If not, they go Penix at 23. McCarthy doesn't fit them. I mean, I don't know. I think
McCarthy's got a big arm. And he was a game manager in college, and that scares the hell out of me when you draft a guy with Justin Jefferson out there. Because Justin Jefferson doesn't want the game to be managed. Justin Jefferson wants to dominate that football game.
Yeah.
And if there's a quarterback who can't get him the football like that, then I think you got a big problem. Justin Jefferson's going to request a trade. Like it's getting to that time in Minnesota.
Yeah. Stevie Super Chat says, does Levis have a quicker release than Joe Burrow? I mean, we're splitting nanoseconds. Like I feel like both Joe Burrow and Will Levis have quick releases.
Sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can tell you that they both get rid of the ball very quickly.
Yes, they can both get it out there very fast. All right, man, we've gotten a lot of stuff covered here on this Friday. Let's get to some good news. Drop your good news in the chat. Share it with us every Friday, wrapping up the show with Ain't That Good News, and give a shout out to Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or check them out online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. So good news to share. If you've got it, let us know. Ain't that good news, Jack? We've shaved off another hour, 12 hours until the Vols tip off in Detroit for the Sweet 16. That is my good news. My good news is that had a great weekend in Charlotte. Watched 2 Vols basketball games in the arena at Spectrum Arena, home of the Charlotte Hornets. Watched 2 wins, got by Texas Longhorns by hitting their free throws at the end, advancing the Sweet 16. Successful all around. Tickets were a challenge, but we did it. But yeah, that my good news is came out of Charlotte with a new addiction of pickleball and watched a lot of great Vols basketball and 2 wins over the weekend.
Yeah, that's got to be a pretty good weekend. I was actually up in Memphis, working some of those games up there. And if you ever have a chance, and I know Nashville's not going to host anytime soon, because the Preds are already accommodating for the SEC basketball tournament. But if you have a chance to go see some March Madness games in your area, I advise you to do so. Those tickets aren't always expensive, depending on the fan bases that travel. And it's just a really cool experience. And, every once in a while you get lucky. Like I was at that A&M Houston game, and that was one of the coolest games I've ever gotten to see, ever. So, I recommend doing that if you ever have the opportunity.
Yep. So good news, real quick. Malachi asked, are they in Charlotte again this weekend? No, Detroit for the Midwest Regional. Tennessee plays against Creighton tonight. And then also Purdue and Gonzaga play the first game in Detroit. Tennessee or Creighton will play the winner of Purdue and Gonzaga. My good news will never be Zach Edey.
He's very annoying, isn't he?
God. Good news. Danny says March Madness is wild, and I'm so glad I haven't bet on any of it this year. LOL. It drained my account last year. I got to say, outside of North Carolina screwing me out of a parlay last night by collapsing at the end, March Madness has treated me fairly well. Jake says good news. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Big Alabama is carrying the SEC in just about everything. And by the way, they've got a really good baseball team this year.
That's right. That's right. Air Marshall says, getting ready for her daughter pool party. That's good news. And B says, good news, the long weekend. Let's see. B Birds says, good news. My A to Z Sports Apparel shipped today. Can't wait for it to get there Monday. Yep. Shop.A2ZSportsNashville.com is where to get that stuff. Jonathan says 4-day Easter long weekend. Josh says just got off the overnight job and it's time for a 4-day weekend. For some good news, Malachi will be having the baby the next week, if not this weekend. Hey, maybe a new A to Z baby coming in here for Malachi. More good news is flying in. Jack, what is your good news this week?
Triple good news for me, Austin. That's how good it is. Okay. It's a good Friday, so we're tripling down on good news. Yesterday, and I'll get through it quickly. Yesterday, Vanderbilt introduced its new men's head basketball coach, Mark Byington. He dominated the press conference. He made sure that the fans knew that they were wanted, the former players. He went around campus, stopped at some fraternities to get the fans back into it. I truly believe he's a guy that's going to help Vanderbilt return to form in basketball after Jerry Stackhouse ruined everything that was great about that program. Next.
Bryce Drew didn't help either.
Bryce Drew, yeah, it's been a mess the last 5-6 years. Next good news. The Atlanta Braves open their season today at 2 p.m. And my productivity will absolutely drop once 2 o'clock comes around because the Braves take on the Phillies. It's time for redemption. The Braves got to put it together in the postseason this year. We're going to start today 1-0. You can't go 162-0 if you don't win the first one. Finally, last good news. I'm out at Zany's tonight. I'm excited. I love going to Zany's. Dan Soder's playing a show over there. So I'm excited to have a couple beers, have some laughs, and really crush my Friday. I'm going to miss a little bit of March Madness, but it's going to be a great Friday for me today.
There you go. There you go. Black Steve says good news about the re-enlist for the last time in the Navy, bringing him to 20 years and 2 months.
Wow.
So shout out to Steve on that one. Roy says good news, just a month until the draft. Rashid says good news, all the elites going down, right? Yeah, North Carolina drop. Iowa State 2-seed drop. Who was the other 2-seed that fell?
Arizona.
Arizona fell last night. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Marquette and NC State kick it off tonight. And then obviously got a lot of stacked games with Houston, 2 seeds and 2 1-seeds in action tonight, with Tennessee Marquette as the 2 seeds and Purdue and Houston as the 1 seeds. A lot of good news. Sorry if we couldn't get to your good news. But, hey, I like when there's so much good news that we can't have times to get to it. But great show today. Great week of shows. We'll be back tomorrow, I guess on Monday, and react to everything that happens and see where the Titans are at as we enter draft month. And also Monday, April Fool's Day, head on a swivel. Head on a swivel for Monday as draft lying season really kicks off. But we'll catch you guys later. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Have a great, safe weekend, long weekend if you're at it, and a happy Easter. Find all those Easter eggs, and we'll catch you guys on Monday. Talk to you later. Appreciate it as always.